revision is now taking place. Amendment 19. If you can't hear, I'm sure you can read. The question is that Amendment 19 be made. As many of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
The contrary, no.
No.
Tell us for the ayes, Mark Gardner and George Hullenbrae. For the noes, Jeff Smith and Nick Smith.
Hi everyone, just to let you know I'm getting ready for a couple of things that I'm doing later on today. I will come back and talk about this hopefully once I've had something to eat. I'm just in the middle of getting ready for tonight's streams at the moment. And actually can't see the chat. So it's just, hi everyone, hi Armsway here, and Tom here in the chat, Jamie and Joe, hi everyone. Yeah, so they're going to go off and vote. Now, I'm not sure which vote this is. I've gone live at 7 o'clock. So there doesn't seem to be a great deal of people in there, so they might be voting on something else. I will tell you about this when I come back, but like I say, I'm just dipping in and out. So I thought I'd give you this stream. I'm going to be talking about this a lot tonight. Obviously, I have a lot to say. Just before, literally 10 minutes ago, I found out that in response to Boris Johnson taking the whip away from 21 MPs who voted against this motion yesterday to basically give the other side control of the House, he's took the whip away from those 21 MPs, which is basically he's deselected them straight away. And in response to that, I have to tell you that Labour have suspended their trigger ballot process. This basically means your hopes of deselection, of deselecting any MPs in the coming weeks and months, when there's an election around the corner, remember, that's suspended now. They've suspended that process. You're stuck with the Blairites for the foreseeable future. That's the way the other side have reacted. So I've got to, and I've just noticed that my focusing is wrong on this. Like I say, I'm a bit all over the place at the moment, so I do apologise. It's been a very, very, very busy few days. Let me sort my focus out on this. Okay, glad to see me crystal clear now. Unfortunately for you. Right, I'm actually going to go away and I'm going to have something to eat and put some makeup on because, makeup otherwise I'd get bags in my eyes like this. You can see. So yeah, I'm going to go away, I'm going to have something to eat, and then I'll be back for a live stream on what is going to be a monumental day by the look of it. We're going to have an election, almost certainly. We'll see, because let's face it, he could call a vote of no confidence on himself, Boris Johnson could, to get this election. You know how the MPs are like saying, no, we won't back an election if he calls one, and you need 434, 2/3 of. He could call a vote of no confidence on himself, because then only half the House would have to vote against him, and he might even then instruct his own MPs. Honestly, it could get that ridiculous today. It could get that ridiculous this week. There's even a situation. Let me tell you this that I've been looking at. There's even a situation where Boris Johnson could say, right, I'm calling an election, and say, right, okay, the election's going to be October the 15th. And when he sends the letter out, it's actually protocol. And the last time when Theresa May called the early election, all it said on the ballot was calling an early election. Didn't actually have the date on it. So we could call an early election for October the 15th, everybody agreed to it, and then say, now I change the date, November the 1st, after we've left on a no-deal Brexit. Honestly, the connotations that could happen over the coming days, your guess is as good as mine. If you had to hold a gun to my head at the moment, I would say there's going to be a general election, and it's going to be on October the 31st in the form of a referendum. If you vote Conservative, you leave on November the 1st, and if you vote any other way, or if you vote Conservative with the coalition of Brexit, etc., because that's what it will need, then I'll talk about it later. And I also have a great conversation tonight for all of you with Jamal Thomas from over in America, from Progressive Soapbox, who I know many of you know and love. And if you don't know of him, you will do tonight, I promise you. We're going to have a good long chat about the debacle that is Brexit, and the debacle that is UK politics and US politics. All right, everybody, I'm going to get out of your way, and it looks like this vote's going to come back, and I'm going to have something to eat, and then we'll try and decipher this absolute circus down in Westminster at the moment. See you soon a bit, everybody. I'll keep this room for you.
the Sergeant Arms investigate the no lobby? There somehow seems to be a block in someone.
Okay, yeah.
Order! Order!
The ayes to the right, 65. The noes to the left, 495.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. The ayes to the right, 65. The noes to the left, 495. The noes have it, the noes have it, and look. We now come to Amendment 6. Stephen Kinnock to move formally.
Formally, sir.
Formally. The question is, Amendment 6 be made? As many of that opinion say aye. Aye! The contrary, no. Aye! Division, clear the lobbies. Order. The question is that Amendment 6... Order. Let's clear them. Order. The question is that Amendment 6 be made. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Division off.
The division is now off.
Fantastic.
Well done, colleagues. Agreed. Right, that's the end of this.
We now come to the next part. The question is that Clause 1 stand part of the bill. This should be as amended, isn't it?
As amended, yeah, clearly.
The question is that Clause 1 as amended stand part of the bill. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is that Clause 2 stand part of the bill. Order! I'm in the middle of the votes.
Yeah, the people in the lobbies, because they don't know the...
The vote's off. I've shouted. I can't do more.
Well, there'll be some people in.
Can't have gone tomorrow. I'm in the middle of a vote.
When you can pause and come back to pause.
Can the sergeant just explain the divisions off?
Yeah, just give it a couple of minutes.
Can you go into the lobby and explain the divisions off? I'm sure the whips will have passed it on. The divisions off. Because there's no tellers.
Why is the division off?
There's no tellers.
Okay, we need tellers.
You can't have no tellers in the
Most of the division off is no tellers. So what's the next bit of business then?
We'll just go through the rest of the business. Amendment 3, confusion. Amendment 4.
No, I mean...
Let's continue to move through. The question is that Clause 2 stand part of the bill. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The question is that Clause 3 stand part of the bill. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The question is Clause 4 stand part of the bill. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The question is that Clause 5 stand part of the bill. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The question is that the schedule be the schedule to the bill. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Order, order.
Order!
I beg to report that the committee has gone through the bill and that the amendment has been made.
Thank you. Order. Under the terms of the order of the House yesterday, we now move directly to the third reading of the bill. To move the third reading, I call Mr. Hilary Benn. Thank you. The question is that the bill be now read for the third time. As many as are that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. No! Division! Clear the lobby. Order. The question is that the bill be now read the third time. As many as are that. The question is that the bill be now read the third time. As many as are that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. Tellers for the ayes, Jeff Smith and Nick Smith. Tellers for the noes, Stuart Andrew and Ian Stewart.
Hey everybody, I'm just finishing up here as they go out the room and what have you, but I've just seen a tweet by Laura Kunsberg, the BBC political editor. Here it is. And as you can see there was a vote that there was an amendment put through there by Stephen Kinnock that to put Theresa May's deal, yes, the dead parrot. Stephen Kinnock put an amendment, his amendment to put Theresa May's deal back to the Commons for another vote actually went through by mistake. As they were talking about Stephen Kinnock, I thought, what's going on? And nobody opposed it. Things are getting very, very odd around here, says Laura Kunsberg. I know many of you in the chat will be, their instant thought will be the same as mine. That was no mistake. Very, very strange times indeed. I'll let you get back to it. I'll be probably another 5 or 10 minutes and then I'll be back.
Order. Order.
The ayes to the right, 327. The noes to the left, 299.
Thank you. The ayes to the right, 327. The noes to the left, 299. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Unlock. Order. Yes. Point of order, Mr. Hilary Benn.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. The House has spoken this evening. And if the other place passes the bill, then I say to the Prime Minister that this House expects him to uphold the law and to fulfil the obligations that will be placed upon him by this bill and prevent this country from leaving the European Union on the 31st of October without a deal. May I also, Mr. Speaker, thank the clerks for their assistance, the Right Honourable Gentleman for Dorset West and others for their great help. And may I also join my Right Honourable friend, the member for Holborn and St Pancras, in most warmly applauding the bravery and the courage of many on that side of the House who have stood by their convictions in the national interest.
Thank you. Point of order, Mr. Stephen Kinnock.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that the House has now approved the bill as amended, could I press the government to, as rapidly as possible, publish the withdrawal agreement bill, which really does require the proper and robust discussion in this place?
Well, the honourable gentleman has made his own point in his own way, and it is on the record, and we're indebted to him. Deferred divisions motion, the whip to move formally. Thank you. The question is as on the order papers. Most other people say aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. We now come to the motion on the early parliamentary general election. To move the motion, I call the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, the House of Commons has passed a bill devised by the leader of the opposition, who I see is not in his place. But his colleague, he is characteristically evasive, if not frit, Mr. Speaker. It's a bill that effectively ends the negotiations, a bill that demands an extension at least until next year and perhaps for many more years to come, and a bill that insists Britain acquiesce to the demands of Brussels and hands control to our partners. It's a bill designed to overturn the biggest democratic vote in our history, the 2016 referendum. And it's therefore a bill without precedent in the history of this House, seeking as it does to force the Prime Minister with a pre-drafted letter to surrender in international negotiations. And I refuse to do this, Mr. Speaker, and it's clear that there is therefore only one way forward for the country. The House has voted repeatedly to leave the EU, and yet it has also voted repeatedly to delay actually leaving. It is voted for negotiations, and today, I'm afraid, it has voted to stop, to scupper any serious negotiations. What this bill means is that Parliament, or the Right Honourable Gentleman, the Leader of the Opposition, who is still not in his place, Mr. Speaker, and I really don't know where he is, he refuses to give battle, or at least to engage in argument tonight. Perhaps that's a sign of how he intends to pursue things in the weeks ahead. The Right Honourable Gentleman's bill I'm glad he's now favoured the House with his presence, Mr. Speaker. The Right Honourable Gentleman's bill, amongst its other functions, is to take away the right of this country to decide how long it must remain in the EU, and handed that power to the EU. And I'm afraid it is time, that is what it does, and I'm afraid it is time for this country to decide whether that is right. The country must now decide whether the Leader of the Opposition or I go to those negotiations in Brussels on the 17th of October to sort this out, because everybody will know that if the Right Honourable Gentleman were to go there, were to be the Prime Minister, he would beg for an extension, he would accept whatever Brussels demands, and we would then have years more dither and delay, yet more arguments over Brexit, and no resolution to the uncertainty that currently bedevils this country and our economy. And everyone knows by contrast that if I am Prime Minister, I will go to Brussels and I will try to get a deal, and believe me, I know that I can get a deal. But if they, Mr. Speaker, if they won't do a deal, I think it would be eminently sensible for them to do so, and as I say, I believe that they will, then under any circumstances, this country will leave the EU on October the 31st.
Oh, come on!
Mr. Speaker, it is completely impossible for government to function if the House of Commons refuses to pass anything that the government proposes. And in my view, and the view of this government, there must now be an election on Tuesday the 15th of October, and I invite the Right Honourable Gentleman to respond, to decide which of us goes as Prime Minister to that crucial council on Thursday the 17th of October. I think it's very sad that MPs have voted like this, but if I am still Prime Minister, I do. I think it's a great dereliction of their democratic duty, Mr. Speaker. But if I'm still Prime Minister after Tuesday the 15th of October, then we will leave on the 31st of October with, I hope, a much better deal. The Leader of the Opposition now has a question to answer. He has demanded an election for 2 years while blocking Brexit. He said only 2 days ago that he would support an election. And now, Parliament having passed a bill that destroys the ability of government to negotiate, is he now going to say that the public cannot be allowed an election to decide which of us sorts out this mess? I don't want an election. The public don't want an election. The country doesn't want an election. But this House has left no other option than letting the public decide who they want as Prime Minister, and I commend this motion to the House.
Jeremy Corbyn says no to the
question is
election.
that there shall be an early parliamentary general election. I call the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Jeremy Corbyn.
There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the second time I've replied to a Conservative Prime Minister seeking to dissolve Parliament to call an election because they didn't have a deliverable Brexit policy. Although I'm not condemning the Right Honourable Member for Maidenhead by comparing her to a successor, she at least made detailed speeches setting out her Brexit policy, even if we fundamentally disagreed with them. This Prime Minister claims he has a strategy, but he can't tell us what it is. The bigger problem for him is that he hasn't told the EU what it is either. And at Prime Minister's question time today, as with the statement yesterday, he was unable to say whether he's even made any proposals whatsoever to the EU. And it's basically a policy that's cloaked in mystery, like the Emperor's new clothes. There really is absolutely nothing there. And the naked truth is that the reality is deeply unpalatable. A disastrous no-deal Brexit to take us into the arms of a trade deal with Donald Trump that will put America first and Britain a distant second. The Prime Minister knows there is no mandate for no deal, no majority support for it in the country, and no majority for it in this House. The Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, the co-convener of the Vote Leave campaign, said in March this year, "We didn't vote to leave without a deal." Even the leaders,
if you don't say yes to this election, you're a coward and you're never going to be Prime Minister,
absolutely
ever.
Clear that the referendum confirmed no mandate for no deal. No deal. No deal. No deal.
This guy's facilitating
No
this.
deal is opposed
He's
by every
facilitating
business
this.
group, every industry body, every
The country's
trade
going to move ever
and
rightward because
by
of
this
him.
House, as
He's
today's
allowing it
votes
to happen.
and others have shown. Mr. Speaker, we want an election because we look forward to turfing this government out. And
Do it then.
Does the Leader of the Opposition want a general election? A yes or no will suffice.
well, he obviously didn't hear what I just said. I was about to point out, before I was gently interrupted by the honourable member, that the offer of the election today is a bit like the offer of an apple to Snow White and the Wicked Queen, because what he's offering is not an apple or even an election, but the poison of a no deal. So, Mr. Speaker, I repeat what I said last night. Let this bill pass and gain royal assent, then we will back an election so we do not crash out with a no-deal exit from the European Union. And so,
you're a coward.
It's the anti-democratic instincts of this government that causes concern.
You won't stand up to fascism. You're allowing it to happen.
The bill debated today.
You're letting it happen.
The Conservative peers, their colleagues in the Lords, have tabled 92 amendments for debate.
Fighting safe battles instead of standing up and
doubt
doing
this is
the right thing for
motivated
you
by a
and me.
desire to improve the legislation.
This isn't the right thing.
Not a bit of it, but to filibuster it. An undemocratic cabal in Downing Street.
Undemocratic? How can you call this undemocratic?
And unelected
what he's
House
doing is undemocratic. He's stopping the will of the people. He's stopping
in the
it.
bill that we have just given a third reading to.
He's been screaming for 2 years he wants another election. He finally gets everything once on a plate. You can have an election and a no-deal Brexit if you want. Outside of the EU, everything you've ever wanted all your life.
Deciding to prorogue Parliament in August. And today he wants to dissolve Parliament to shut down scrutiny. He cannot handle dissent. He cannot handle dissent and debate in his own party, and has extraordinarily expelled 21 of his own MPs who voted against him last night. The hypocrisy of this process is phenomenal.
Secure the Blairites'
From a
future
Prime Minister
by
who twice
stopping the trigger ballot process. Seriously, that's what he did. That's what they've done in the last hour or so.
A general election isn't a plaything for a Prime Minister to avoid his obligations, to dodge scrutiny or renege on commitments. He is committed to renegotiate Brexit. But where is it? Where is the plan? Where are the proposals? If he has a Brexit plan, be it no deal or the new mystery proposal deal that we've yet to see any information of, then he should put it before the public in a public vote, a referendum or a general election, and seek a mandate for them. Let the Prime Minister go to Brussels tomorrow and ask for an extension so that he can seek a mandate for his
now he's going to call a vote of no confidence on himself if he doesn't get this election. Honestly, I can see that happening, because then he only needs 50% and not
playing a disingenuous game that are unworthy of his office.
Told you.
I look forward to the
Boris
day
Johnson could call
his
a vote of no
government and
confidence
his
on
party
himself.
and all their austerity and misery they've heaped on this country are turfed out of office, and we prevent leaving this
We prevent this country crashing out on the 31st of October with all the damage
look at Joe
he
Hickey.
knows
Miles,
because he's
Miles
already
Lawrence,
seen
look
the
at Joe
documents
Hickey
it will
in the
do
chat.
to people's
Joe
lives
Hickey is
and
a
job
staunch
prospects
Corbyn
in this
supporter.
country.
She
It's a
was
cynical
honestly
movement
slagging
from a
off
cynical
me off,
Prime
having
Minister.
a go at me a couple of months ago because saying I was too hard on him. Look at her in the chat now. Look at what she's saying. You won't ever get anyone else in Labour now. He's sold us all out forever. And if you were a real socialist, you would know
I was
that.
going to join in if other people were going to debate, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for encouraging me. No doubt the deep distress of everybody else waiting to have an important
He's thrown his own support
merely say
overboard
I found
this
these
year.
exchanges quite
On
predictable.
purpose.
They've been well rehearsed before we took place. I do think the Prime Minister, with the greatest respect, has a tremendous skill in keeping a straight face whilst he's being so disingenuous.
Dude, to destroy what he's destroyed this year, for Corbyn to do what he's done this year, he has to have done it on purpose. You can't keep scoring own goals for 8 fucking months without doing it on purpose. If you had a defender and you supported Liverpool, and I don't know, in the 80s, and Alan Hansen was scoring 46 own goals a season, you'd be thinking, yeah, you know what? I think he might be playing for the other side.
The fact is he's now desperate to have an election in order to bring this House's proceedings to an end and to have the general election clearly before October the 31st. And he's obviously going to campaign before that on the basis that he's been thwarted in getting an amazing beneficial deal for this country, which is actually being blocked by wicked continental politicians.
What deal?
And by
what fucking deal are you talking about?
Politicians
what
and
deal?
MPs in the House of Commons.
You've been trying for 3 years and you've got nowhere near it. Nowhere near.
In power.
What fucking deal is he talking about that they can get?
It's wrong to say that the opposition to him is trying to reverse the referendum. A very large percentage of those who've been defeating him in the last 2 days are prepared to vote for Brexit. They voted for Brexit more often than he has. He caused delay in March and he caused delay in April, but we wish to do so on satisfactory and reasonable terms. We now have a bill which is the beginning of a pathway to actually give us more time for grown-up, sensible, diplomatic exchanges between countries. The idea that on the European
It's okay,
Union,
Joe. It's all right, mate. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
A deal,
when you and I disagreed, it was civil, it was fine. It was okay. I take no joy in being right
nonsense.
here. I take no joy in being right about this,
get
mate.
a deal.
None.
But of course, they're desperate to get a deal.
I was
but
cheering
not
him on
so
with you last year, remember, when he was
that
being
they're going to accept
populist
terms
left.
which will cause chaos
Now,
in Northern Ireland.
they're
politically
moving
and
to the right,
economically,
and he's
will
doing what the
shatter
Democrats are
normal
doing.
rules
Corbyn,
which hold
let me turn this
together
down,
the
because this
single
guy
market
is
and the
talking, it's
customs
Ken Clark,
union,
for Christ's sake.
on which
But
they're
let me
based.
tell you what exactly is happening now with Corbyn, right? So those 21 MPs who have had the whip taken away from Conservatives, boom, they've gone. That's it. Out of the Conservative Party, boom, you might as well just cross the aisle now. You're not a Conservative. Philip Hammond is actually having to take them to court to remain in the Conservative Party. It's that much. Boom, bang. It's the populist rhetoric, you know, right-wing populism, Trumpism. We've been talking about it for a long time, especially on this channel with you people. You all know this. My regular viewers, I've been talking about it for a long time. This is Trumpism. And Boris Johnson's doing it. He's got the playbook and he's going for it. A, B, C. Boom. Look at what they're doing here. I'm going to quickly try and bring in my pictures if I can. Quickly bring in my pictures. Here we go. Boom. Look at this. From yesterday. Jacob Rees-Mogg is lounging. You tell me he's not doing that on purpose to get a fucking rise out of the other side so he can then go, look, we're talking about Brexit, we're talking about the most important thing that this country's faced, we're talking about in the midst of a constitutional crisis, and all they care about is how I'm sitting. That's the way it looks to us when Caroline Lucas, trust Caroline Lucas to be the one that gets up and starts talking about it. And then you've got other MPs for Labour who are invoking stuff that Owen Jones talks about. In 435% rising Islamophobic attacks since Boris Johnson wrote a column in the Spectator. I'm not kidding you, that's what they're blaming it on. Because he wrote a column in the Spectator. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I find it hard to believe that the racists, bigoted racists in this country read the fucking Spectator. It was a simile, and he did it to try and get a rise out of you, and you took the bait, and you're doing it over and over. They only take the Labour MPs. I have been watching them now. I have been watching them for so long. And they only fight the safe battles. They don't fight anything of substance. Nothing. I've got a stream in an hour with Jamal Thomas, and I'm going to talk about this. We're going to talk about Brexit. We're going to nail it down, because honestly, he's not going to be able to believe what the fuck is happening here. Jeremy Corbyn just had an election that he's been calling for 2 years. Give him on a silver platter, and he said no. He wants to stop Brexit first. How do you think that's going to go down in the Midlands and the North? The heartlands that are historically Labour heartlands that voted Leave. How do you think that's going to go down? My old mum, I went round there yesterday. Have you been watching it? She said, Corbyn's a bit of a turncoat, isn't he? My mum! Every step of the way this year, every step of the way, he has moved out the way and just said, there you go, score. Every step of the way. Chris Williamson gets thrown. Yeah, throw him under the bus, no problem. The guy's got no balls, he's got no backbone, and he's a coward. And you know what? I know a lot of people attack me, go after it. Just lay off Corbyn. Do you now understand why I've been so hard on him? Do you now get it? I'll be talking about it with Jamal tonight, in about 45 minutes tonight. But I swear, this is a goddamn puppet show. It's a puppet show. The only trouble is, we don't know whose hand is up their fucking arses.
It's quite clear, if anyone reads the bill, what it's about. It's about removing the cliff edge of the 31st of October. And yes, we in the SNP have worked with colleagues right around this House. We've worked in the spirit of consensus. But yes, of course, I wish to stop Brexit and Scotland being dragged out. And I say this to the right honourable gentleman, that we will work collectively with everybody here, but I have a responsibility with my colleagues to stop this government dragging Scotland out of Europe against its will. And the message to the Prime Minister and the right honourable gentleman, will you respect democracy in Scotland, and will you respect that Scotland has voted to remain in the European Union? Mr Speaker, it is the SNP's top priority to avoid no deal. We know the devastation a no-deal Brexit would bring to people in Scotland and across these islands. That's why we've been working hard for the past 2 years to avoid no deal. SNP MPs have voted consistently against no deal. We have supported
to the people who are telling me to calm down in the trap, listen. Corbyn is facilitating a move, a sharp move here to right-wing authoritarian fascism. He's letting it happen. He's doing something that is going to allow it to happen. We're going to have an election, and we're going to have a Boris Johnson, Nigel Farage fucking cacophony. And everything that you have been fear-mongering against, you people fear-mongering against, they've facilitated it. They've actually helped it happen. You couldn't do this unless you had fucking tried to.
Well, I mean, the simple answer is yes. I commit myself to working with all others.
So yeah, if I'm a little bit pissed off, you're damn right I am. You should be too, and if you're not paying attention.
Of other parties to ensure that the Benn Bill passes tonight. We've come together to ensure that protecting the lives of people across the United Kingdom and their livelihoods is the absolute priority of this Parliament. And it's important, Mr Speaker, that we keep working together. Mr Speaker, no one voted for a no-deal Brexit.
Nobody voted for a bag of onions either.
And the Prime Minister needs to wake up.
Nobody voted for next door neighbour's cat. It was in out. It wasn't in out if we can get a deal and the EU aren't too mean and, you know, they don't invent a backstop that we can't remove. It was in out. It's such an argument. It's such an easy argument to dispel that is. We didn't vote for a no-deal Brexit. We didn't vote for a bag of onions either. That wasn't on the ballot. It was in or out. They've been saying it for 2 years. 2 years!
Should quit game playing stunts. The SNP will not fall for them. Mr. Speaker, the Scottish National Party is ready for an election. We stand ready to bring down the Tory government and give Scotland the chance to stop Brexit.
For 18 months I've been telling you guys they don't want to give you Brexit.
To work with all across this House to stop a no-deal Brexit. It is in all our interest to do so. But I also say to this House, we will do our duty to protect all of us from a no-deal Brexit. But at the same time, this House should respect the sovereignty of the Scottish people and our rights to be able to determine our own future.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll do well in the EU, mate.
I don't know if you noted last night with the lack of enthusiasm from Scottish Conservatives for this early general election. It might have something to do with the fact that they're now 20% in the polls and due to be decimated.
Surely Scotland have looked at the way they've treated the UK and are thinking, hold on a minute, do we really want to... You know, it is a thought. The EU are not going to treat Scotland well. Scotland is not a massive economy. They haven't got a big enough bat to be treated well in the EU.
And make sure those constituents have that opportunity to return those seats to the Scottish National Party. Mr. Speaker, much of this debate has been about democracy. It is about the abuse of power by a government seeking to shut down Parliament. This House must respect the Scottish Parliament and, in particular, the mandate the Scottish Government has for a referendum on independence. It should be Scotland's right to choose its own future, not the right of this Prime Minister or any other in Westminster to tell Scotland that our votes do not matter, that we cannot determine when Scotland votes in an independence referendum. Mr. Speaker, an election is coming, and I invite Scotland to send a message to Westminster. It is Scotland's right to choose. The Times poll today shows that the SNP is set to win a majority of Westminster seats in any election. Make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, we relish an election because we want to stop Brexit for good. We want to stop the Tories, to stop this Prime Minister. And most importantly, we want to give the people a say, their choice to decide their own future. However, Mr. Speaker, we will not be party to the Prime Minister's games and allow the Prime Minister to use an election to force a no-deal Brexit through the back door. Simply put, the SNP cannot support this motion tonight because we do
not be able to defeat Boris and Farage, Governor Labour. I told you, mate. UK's TYT. Navarra Media are the UK's TYT.
To the people of Scotland. We cannot trust that he will allow this bill to pass and remove the cliff edge.
They're there to say the right progressive thing.
And I urge other opposition parties.
You don't talk about Julian Assange being a journalist and publisher. No. You talk about whether he's a rapist or not.
But we cannot
and then once you talk about whether he's a rapist or not, instead of being a journalist, then you get invited on Democracy Now! By Andy Goodman.
This Parliament and this country with
That's
contempt
Media
to remain in office for one more day longer than is necessary. The Prime Minister is going to shut this Parliament down so he can spend 4 weeks running the clock down. We could instead use that time to run him
openly
out of
saying
office.
they want to stop Brexit.
Once a no deal has been blocked, MPs across this House
shameful,
on the
Joe
opposition
Hickey. Utterly
benches
shameful.
should
Yes,
come together to bring down
Stephen
this
Davis
government,
says, didn't 17.4
not on the
million
Prime
decide their
Minister's
future
terms,
in the EU,
but on the right
back in
terms.
2016? Question
Mr.
mark.
Speaker,
Yes, Stephen, that's correct.
time is of the essence. Over
Michael
the
White's
next 2 days,
55. Monster
in order
Raven
to
Looney
remove
Party seems to be the sensible option. Yes, I agree with you.
irresponsible,
The
incompetent
conscientious
Tory
view says
government
it's
from
okay for
office.
Scotland to want independence from the UK, but not for the UK to have independence from the EU.
Speaker, I think I've got an apology to make, and that is to Brenda from Bristol. And on a personal basis, I think I've only just got over the 2015 election. But we need to ask ourselves, what can this Parliament now achieve?
Fuck all, by the look of it. Fuck all. You couldn't pass urine, let alone a bill.
Would this Parliament even approve a
You couldn't
bold
pass
and
out
ambitious
after too much to
Queen's
drink.
speech to put onto statute in the future?
You couldn't pass a football.
Would it approve a Queen's speech to put
You've
those
got
20,000 new police on the streets?
Boris Johnson presides over a minority government right now with a majority of -43. Take that, Maduro. How's that for How's that for democracy? It's insane. Look what Boris Johnson was calling him not long ago, Maduro. Look, Boris Johnson compares Venezuelan president to a dictator of an evil regime. He's been elected by about 100,000. Boris Johnson's been elected by about 100,000 rich people, and he's calling Maduro a dictator, somebody who lives in a country where the right to vote is in their constitution. Is it in yours? Do we have a constitution? No, everybody has the right to vote. And because it's in the constitution, they make it very easy for everybody to register to vote, and they even go in and put their fingerprints in, thumbprint in there, and ID cards and everything. Everybody has the right to vote. I keep having to go check whether I'm still on the electoral roll. I've lived in the same place for 12 years. Doesn't matter. Every year I'm still here. Don't take me off the electoral roll. In Venezuela, boom, done. At birth, boom, registered to vote. As soon as you reach that age, doom. There you go. Boris Johnson elected by 100,000 people, rich people, presiding over a minority government with a majority of -43, and he was calling Venezuelan President Maduro a dictator. If our media aren't jumping up and saying, come on, Boris, you hypocritical tosspot, about this, then I don't know what to tell you. But they won't, will they? Why? Because they went along with all the lies about Venezuela back then, so they can't highlight them now. This is why we need a new system. This Parliament is ancient. It's an analogue watch in a digital era. It's not fit for purpose, and they have broken the social contract.
Accountants leaving without a deal. And it's quite strange, isn't it? They're the same people who go to their local market every week, and they will walk away from that trade if the price isn't right or the quality isn't right. Now, I would ask the Leader of the Opposition, I've got a rusty old heap of a car. It's yours for £15,000. I'm sure he'll just take it without looking at it any further.
Of course.
But when this House
that is a good analogy. I was talking earlier to Hitch, and I was saying, it's like taking no deal off the table in a gigantic negotiation like that, with trying to get a gigantic trade deal. Them taking no deal off the table is the equivalent of getting to the final table of the World Series of Poker and deciding, fuck it, I'm only going to play 4 cards all the way through. It's insane. And they've just done it.
They claim they wanted a deal. And as we know, that withdrawal agreement gave the vassalage and the perpetual homage to the EU that many of them now seem to crave. What is now clear, Mr. Speaker, is that this House
silly walk
would not
be
agree a deal
Hickey,
even if it were gold-plated. This House no longer reflects the will of the people of this country, who gave that clear message to us, to this Parliament, that we would respect that vote in 2016. They want us to get on with a job. They want us to leave on October the 31st. They've waited long enough. Mr. Speaker, this Parliament serves no further purpose. It is time for a general election. It's time for that people's vote that many are asking for. It's time to actually stop those critics who say that our Prime Minister isn't properly elected. You can put that right by voting tonight for a general election. And I support that wholeheartedly.
Joe Swinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say thank you to the MPs in different parts of the House.
Her voice is like nails on a
the
chalkboard.
honourable members and right honourable members who have worked so hard on the bill that we all passed tonight. It is that cross-party working, putting the party interest to one side and putting the national interest first, that is what the country expects us to do. And in particular, colleagues on the Conservative benches have stuck to their principles and done what they think is right and should be commended for that. And I have to say, I think the way that they have been treated has been shameful.
Do you have a point?
I'm intrigued that as a result of the House of Commons saying very clearly that we will not countenance crashing out of the EU with no deal, the Prime Minister's response is that this somehow messes up his plan. It's as if it's news to him that the House of Commons does not want a no-deal exit. Was he not paying attention on the previous occasions that we voted to say there should not be a no-deal exit? Is he seriously saying that the extent of
If you're
his
about to
plan
vote Lib Dem in the
was to
upcoming
try to
election,
bully
which we
the
will
EU,
have, by the way,
and that he
if
could
you're
only get a good
about
deal
to vote Lib
by
Dem,
threatening
my
that we
question
would
to you
leave
is this:
without a deal.
why not just
Because
vote
if that
Tory?
is the extent of his plan, it is not very well thought through. I will give way to the Honourable Lady.
Thank the Honourable
Well,
Lady for giving
please,
way. Could she confirm
thank
if
God
there was
she
a general
gave way,
election,
because
the Liberal Democrats will be putting in their manifesto
she wasn't going to get to a point
a
anytime
pledge
soon.
to revoke Article 50.
It's of no surprise to the Honourable Lady that the Liberal Democrats want to stop Brexit. We have been crystal clear on stopping Brexit, and for all there are different views on different sides of the House about that, I don't think anyone can accuse us of not being straightforward about where we stand.
Oh, you're straightforward where you stand, I
the
suppose.
Prime Minister says, I've
You
already
just
given
change your
orders.
mind as soon as
The terms
you
of the
get any
negotiation.
power whatsoever.
The Prime Minister says that he now
And
can't
vote for
do
the
this
bedroom tax
negotiation
and the cuts and all the
because
other
we are
horrible
taking
things
no
that she
deal off
voted
the
for
table.
as a junior
but
minister.
we know there are not serious negotiations anyway. The word disingenuous was used by the Father of the House, and I think it is accurate.
I think it
The Prime
disingenuous is
Minister
very accurate,
has
especially
wanted
when
the-
you're talking. Right, I'm going to have to prepare, because in a half an hour, I've got a really great stream for you guys set up, live stream. We're going to go live with Jamal Thomas from the Progressive Soapbox. So I'm going to go away and prepare for that, and I will be back in about 30 minutes, and I'll probably do a 15-minute countdown as well, so about 45 minutes. I'll be live again, and we'll have a good chat about this absolute... I'd call it a circus, but it's defamatory to circuses. The clowns, you know. I'd call them clowns, but I don't know. Right, I'm going to go away, and yeah. Even when you turn her sound off, she sounds disingenuous, doesn't she? Anyway, right, I'm going to go and sort this live stream out, get everything ready. I've said I'm going to go again, and the dog's like, are you ready? Yeah, come on then. Come on. Right, I'll let her out too. Thanks, everybody. I'll be back in about 45 minutes. Yeah, Labour are gone, says Tom Hume. Crisis management for a dying Labour Party. That's what Mark Blythe said about Jeremy Corbyn. Could be right again. See you in about 45. Peace, everyone.